Welcome in, guys. Rover Sports. I'm glad to have a good buddy back on the show, Jetscentral. He's been doing great work on his channel. And JC, how have you been enjoying this football season? And welcome into the show.
Hey, Spence. First off, thanks for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to come on. I always love, coming on and doing these segments with you. But, yeah, man, I think I could speak for a lot of fans when I say that the football season has been odd. You see teams like the Miami Dolphins step up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers step up, and then you see teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers who are 0-1-1, right? The New Orleans Saints, they've looked a little, spotty too. So definitely a weird season so far, but we're only 2 weeks in.
It's exactly right. And, teams like the Chicago Bears and the 49ers that are out 1-1, people act like Mitchell Trubisky plays on Monday night and like the world is falling when, he throws 2 touchdowns, he throws 2 picks. But it looks like the Chicago Bears are having a great year. It seems like teams like Seattle are really in decline and the NFC West teams like Seattle and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, both for Seattle, the one thing is with Seattle, it's like what the problem is, right? It's the offensive line. It's kind of the weapons on the outside for Russell Wilson. They're not that deep at wide receiver. Whereas with the Cardinals, it's weird because they have like a top running back in David Johnson. They have a pretty good wide receiving core, like a decent wide receiving core with Larry Fitz and Christian Kirk and whatnot. It's just odd,
I've been thinking a lot about this, JC, and that you look at the NFL – and other than I really can't come up with a team that is in desperate need of having a quarterback. I mean, Buffalo has their guy that they're going to try to build with. Arizona's going to eventually put in their player. And you just look around the NFL. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's 2-0, Blake Bortles, like guys that you'd expect to drop off the map. And it really seems like every position pretty much of every team right now is filled with franchise quarterbacks. And it makes you think, like, do you think that the new rules of, like, the Clay Matthews hit and not being able to put your hands on wide receivers, do you think that the combination of just the college game, do you think that there's an overload of quarterbacks right now? And do you think that the product is actually getting saturated down where everybody's kind of on an equal playing field at that position and with everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely – number one, you bring up a good point, but it's definitely being watered down with quarterbacks because, I feel like every year there's at least 3. This past year there was 4, arguably 5 with Lamar Jackson. Hell, all 5 were first-round picks. But, you take a look across the league, and really only a few teams come to mind as far as, like, thinking future, right? You get the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got your New York Giants.
Yeah.
And, maybe Tampa because Fitzmagic is not the franchise quarterback, and I know they're not really 100% sure, moving forward with Jameis if that's the right idea. But, Cincinnati, Dalton, he's looked pretty good so far. I would still replace Bortles eventually in Jacksonville. And then I guess you can make the argument, too, for Derek Carr, Oakland. If the Raiders just have a horrendous season, maybe the Raiders try to deal him off.
Right. And you got to look at certain guys, like even Stafford, if he just can't get it together, the bottom of the league eventually is going to figure themselves out. With quarterbacks, like you're eventually going to look at the bottom of the league and then you're going to have to handpick which guys aren't able to win. I wanted to talk to you about Ryan Fitzpatrick because this guy's having an incredible year. And what's different about Ryan? Is this sustainable? Is this today's game? What the heck is happening with this guy?
Hey, man, I wish I had the answers. I think nobody really has the for sure answer. But what are the facts? The facts is that Ryan Fitzpatrick, he does this time and time and time again where he lures a whole bunch of people in, and then all of a sudden, as soon as you buy in and you trust him, he'll just rip your heart out and throw it on the ground and stomp on it. So he did that. Yeah, he did that with the Buffalo Bills. He did that with the New York Jets. And now it's looking like that might, round 3 might be coming right up with Tampa. But hey, Tampa's 2-0. The players like him. He's throwing for a lot of yards and touchdowns and stuff. What are your thoughts on the whole Fitz thing?
Yeah, I'd keep him in until, the team is going off the reservation and the record is not that great. Jameis Winston's a young guy. You just keep him around. And, with Fitz, he's 35 at most. He probably has 2 to 3 years left. And he still has some arm talent. I like the downfield vertical passing game that Todd Monken has put in there to Dirk Cutter's offense. And Tampa Bay right now, I mean, they're a focused team. They were counted out. It's really quiet there. And that's why I look at Tampa Bay, and it's really exciting. And now they play Pittsburgh on Monday night. That's going to be one of my favorite games of the entire week because you have a team in Pittsburgh. You have Antonio Brown not going to practice. You have a real cultural kind of, uprising that's going on there. And you have a defense that allowed 6 touchdowns. And I think that Mike Tomlin and the Steel Curtain, I just think that he's completely lost an identity of what's going on with Pittsburgh. Because growing up, Palomalu and James Harrison, that defense was so elite. And they've lost all of that completely.
It's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy because when I think back of when I was like a kid and whatnot, just Pittsburgh Steelers, the culture and everything, it was hard-nosed defense. You could not run on them. They're going to run the ball with, the bus and Jerome Bettis and just throw the ball to, guys like Hines Ward and whatnot. But now when I think of them, I just think of like finesse. They can't stop anybody, no discipline whatsoever, and there's just divas all around.
Exactly. It is really funny to see that with Pittsburgh, and they still have a chance to put it all together, just like the Patriots have a chance. Who are some of these teams that are starting off slow, like in the AFC or the NFC, that you still think are going to put it together eventually, that are just off to a mediocre start?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird too because the opposite of your question, you could just rattle off a bunch, right? The Bengals and, all these teams, Bucks, all these teams. Yeah, even Denver too. I mean, not a lot of people had Denver being 2-0 either. But, off the cuff, I think a team that I think is a lot better than what their record currently is Tennessee. They're 1-1, beating the Houston Texans and then losing to the Miami Dolphins. You take a look at that team. Marcus Mariota, he's dealing with some injury problems. They still have the new head coach. Everybody's kind of getting accustomed to, new offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur and whatnot. So I think once everything kind of gets ingrained over there in Tennessee, they could pick up a lot of steam, like towards the tail end of the season, almost like what the Chargers did, with Anthony Lynn last year.
Yeah, Tennessee, I'm really excited to see if they can go into Jacksonville and compete with Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville in week 1 didn't look all that great. Now, they did play New England so well, and they were able to hit all these crossing patterns. And maybe the Patriots just don't have a defense that's all that reliable, because that's what it seemed like to me. It didn't seem like Blake Bortles did okay, but none of the throws were like Blake can't make that throw. I mean, guys were just running wide open, and the game plan was great. But going back to Tennessee, I think this is a super important game for Marcus Mariota. It seems like he hasn't even played the whole damn year, and I think that Tennessee has a chance this week to even win a game in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee definitely has the Jags number. I think they swept them last year, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. What do you think about the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, Bill O'Brien? Do you think that this relationship can go off the rails?
Well, I'm actually a huge Bill O'Brien fan, but the Deshaun Watson thing, I got to be honest, because we've talked before about this, I never really fully committed to buying into Deshaun Watson. I mean, I had, the core 4 quarterbacks this year, Mayfield, Rosen, Allen, and Darnold, all ranked above Watson, right? And people loved Deshaun coming out last year. And I just think that the league is kind of catching up to him a little bit. I know he had that historic section of the season last year where he just threw for a ton of TDs. But, when you actually look at the plays that Watson plays, it's just a lot of spread looks. It's a lot of the run pass option kind of stuff. And then once defenses kind of have a little bit of tape on you, they can shut that stuff down. And if you can't beat teams within the pocket, under center and whatnot, you're just going to have a hard time.
Yeah, it's amazing to look at just how people analyze what's going on with people in this league. Like Jimmy Garoppolo to me is so far down the list. Like he's not getting mentioned at all for being one of the best quarterbacks. And we talk, and you watch Mahomes at Texas Tech. I mean, are you just really surprised with how the guy is like reacting to live bullets? How this Kansas City offense is thriving. I mean, the 10 touchdowns and why did you have your criticisms on Pat? And like, what do you think is going on with this Chiefs offense that's making it so dynamic so far?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, I got to give credit where it's due. Patrick Mahomes has been putting up the numbers. Am I fully committed in the Patrick Mahomes? Am I fully on that bandwagon? Probably not, no, because Andy Reid has showed this before. I mean, I feel like we've seen the Andy Reid movie plenty of times where the Chiefs start off really hot in the beginning of the year. It's almost like he draws up a whole bunch of new game plans in the offseason and then just completely unleashes them in the first few weeks. He has every single weapon on offense. He has an all-pro tight end. He has all-pro wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins. He has a rising star in Kareem Hunt. And the defense it's not a bad defense, right? It's like an average defense. So looking at this Chiefs team really, or, more specifically the offense, am I impressed? Not necessarily, but I just because I kind of I expect this, right? You have so many good players. You have one of the best offensive coaches in the league. I expect any quarterback to go on there to go, play for the Chiefs and have some success. Now Mahomes has exceeded my expectations a little bit because I didn't think any quarterback would be this good. But I mean, we've seen it before with Alex and McNabb. Quarterbacks do very well under Coach Reid.
So it's record-setting stuff from Mahomes, and if it keeps up, then it's going to be, like, undebatable how incredible the guy is. I mean, I was definitely a fan of Mahomes. I have Kansas City actually – I had Kansas City before the season going to the Super Bowl, and the one team that is really going to pose a problem is Denver. And that Monday night game is going to be perfect because you have Denver as a team that is doing a job where they're winning ugly. I mean, Kansas City got up 21-0. And Pittsburgh just came right back. And I don't think that formula can be sustainable. Like, that's why on my show, I'm picking the 49ers to go in the Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. And I look at Kansas City, and I even think that that game in Denver is just going to be incredibly exciting because you have a team with a defense versus just all offense. And will Kansas City's defense start to rise? Will they start to play at a decent level? Because if they do – if Kansas City's defense gives you a little bit, it's going to be a hell of a team this year.
Yeah, that's the thing for like the Chiefs fans out there that could be watching this is that if the defense steps up for Kansas City, this team is an easily they have a really good chance to make the Super Bowl. If the defense just steps up even a little bit.
That's what's so cool, for the year, and everybody was kind of down. Nobody really expected this brilliance, but Kansas City, it is really, really impressive, though, to watch the season so far from them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we got Jetscentral here on Rover Sports. JC, I wanted to continue to ask you stuff about the NFL. When was the last time you watched a Jet game and you had high expectations for the team? Sorry. Oh, man. This is live. I'm back now. I'm back. Seemed like an eternity. When was the last time you had high expectations and the Jets blew it for you?
Man, it's a good question. I want to go back to 2015 when we blew that Week 17 game in Buffalo. Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing the picks, Brandon Marshall, running his mouth before the game saying it's going to be great playing in the playoffs for the first time, and then they go out and they lose the game. So I would probably say back in 2015.
Do you think that New York Giants fans have it the roughest in the NFL with just the expectation that you expected?
No, I think the Oakland Raiders fans have it tough because you're locked in with John Gruden. If he doesn't work out, you're really handcuffed to him. The team is moving. You just traded Khalil Mack. Derek Carr, you want him to perform well, and he did perform well last week. But I just feel as though Oakland, Oakland's fan base, they kind of have a rough time with it. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, that the team's moving. I get that. I mean, the thing about Oakland is that they played I even had trouble sleeping after that Oakland game because I kind of like John Gruden. I did agree with the trade of Khalil Mack because of the pieces that you're getting back. The problem is Derek Carr went perfect, and he went 32 for 35, and they still found a way to lose the damn football game. I mean, the guy was playing perfectly. How can you sleep at night when you dominate a game, but at the same time, Case Keenum can play so lousy and you lose a freaking ball game like that? You know what I'm saying? Derek Carr goes perfect. You dominate the time of possession, you still lose a football game. Something's so flawed with that.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how you just said it best. I don't know how he sleeps at night. What do you even say to the team after the game? Because Derek Carr dominated. I thought the play
actually.
What?
He doesn't. He sleeps 4 hours a night.
Yeah, it's just tough, man. You did exactly what you needed to do to win the game, but you lost. And that's just a hard sell to say to your players.
So you know what I think it is? I think Derek Carr you need explosive plays. You can't be going down the field 20 freaking plays. You need to explode, almost like Kansas City.
That's where I feel
where blow teams out. Stop throwing just 5-yard throws. It's all good, but
yeah, I just feel like Derek Carr just isn't a good fit for this John Gruden system. I feel like Derek Carr needs to be in a vertical passing game as opposed to a West Coast, bootleg style system.
I think he's a perfect fit. That's the thing. I think Carr ran the system perfectly. I'm just worried about the system, if you can't win with this, if the system is perfect, it's a system problem. So, I really care about Oakland because no one puts in more time than Gruden. You listen to his interviews, he really cares. It's a likable kind of team right now. I agree. I'm really rooting for them to beat the Dolphins because I have a sick taste in my mouth from last week's game watching them.
Yeah, man, me too. And of course, being a Jets fan, I really hope Oakland goes down there and gets their first victory. But it's really interesting too because for the Oakland fans out there, it's really exciting to look at the next 2 years having 4 first-round picks and I believe 2 second-round picks. So that's 6 potential starting high-caliber players.
Right on, man. Yeah, it is really going to be great to see what Reggie and John can do, continue to build. Got a couple more questions here. JC, thanks for joining the show. It's been fun just talking football and everything. I'm going to ask you about the rookie quarterbacks now. If you were the Giants, how much would you regret? First, I'm going to ask you, do you think Drew Lock is just a lot better of a prospect than Sam Darnold? Do you think that this guy's ceiling is the highest of the high?
I would still, as prospects, I would still take Sam Darnold, without any hindsight biases or anything like that. But I would still put Sam above Drew Lock. I've kind of compared Drew Lock to Patrick Mahomes, a guy who's a little bit mobile, who has a complete gunslinger, has a rifle arm, can make crazy plays. But at the same time, you got to question, okay, he's coming from Missouri, air raid system. Hasn't really beaten, or hasn't really done that well against teams like Alabama, the Auburns, the Texas A&Ms of the world and whatnot. So I would still take Darnold over Drew Lock, but Lock is an interesting candidate for the Giants to say the least.
And he'd bring the everything that the Giants need with how boring the offense has been.
I think Drew Lock to the Giants would be an absolute home run. You have this guy faking the read option to Saquon Barkley, pulling it back and throwing slants to Beckham all day. It would just
so in.
Yeah, yeah, it would just completely take the lid off of opposing defenses. Drew Lock inserted into the Giants lineup, it would just be absolute pandemonium.
Believe it or not, as good as Mahomes is, and I would take Mahomes, I've told you in a second, Jimmy and Mahomes, I think Drew Lock, and Tua, I would take Drew Lock as, one of my favorite prospects maybe ever. Just because of the throws that he can make, occasionally, it's mind-boggling how he can change a game like that. The thing is, the Shermer offense is more towards Justin Herbert and Greer. So I don't even see – I don't think it's a good fit with Pat Shermer, which I'm worried about. But again, like if the Giants pass on Drew Lock, he's going to be Mahomes somewhere, and that's going to be hard to sleep with. I think that not sleep with, but like, you know what I mean, contemplate. But I look at Sam Darnold and the way he plays the game of the 10-yard throws, and he's all right to me. He's a decent player. He's a little bit like Romo and Rivers, but I am not completely like just in awe of his abilities, or I'm not losing sleep over the Sam Darnold thing right now.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that everybody has to keep in mind is that he's only 21, so I still like Sam. I still believe he could be a beast. But, I mean, as everybody knows, I still would rather go with Mayfield or Rosen, at least for the Jets.
Right. So what do you think about Thursday night? Do you like playing on Thursday? How excited are you? I think the Browns are a great opponent. I think it's a really exciting game. How you feeling? Do you like playing Thursday night? And what do you think about tomorrow?
Number one, I'm pumped. And I really like, playing on Thursday night and stuff like that. It always gives the fans to look forward to something at night, especially when it's your team, like all the chips are in the middle of the table, if you will. And then also it's pretty cool how you could kind of coast into Sunday without any pressure. You could just cruise to a sports bar, watch all the games, get all the headlines, just play some fantasy football with your friends and stuff. So I actually do really enjoy it, Thursday night football.
How do you think the Jets are going to do tomorrow?
We got to protect Sam Darnold. If we don't protect Sam, the Cleveland Browns are going to just stomp us. But if we can protect him and Sam Darnold doesn't really get sacked much, he doesn't get hurried up or hurried a lot, knocked down and stuff, I think the Jets can move the ball in this Browns defense.
And it's a low-scoring game, you see? Low-scoring game?
Yeah, 17-13, somewhere in that range.
And if the Browns lose, that would be very exciting because then Baker might get his chance at 0-2-1 to step in. JC, Josh Allen going to Minnesota. How exciting is this for Josh Allen? How excited are you to see him grow?
It's the ultimate test, right? I mean, the best defense in the league, one of the best coaches in the league in Mike Zimmer. Josh Allen has it's the definition of like the David and Goliath story. Josh Allen has no offensive line. He has no offensive weapons whatsoever. LaShawn McCoy has not done anything this year. It's Josh Allen versus the world, when you look at this Buffalo Bills team. And I feel bad for Josh, even though he's a rival of mine. I do feel bad for him. I mean, he seemed like a nice enough kid when, we had the opportunity to say hello and meet him up in Mobile. But, I wouldn't blame Josh that much. If the Buffalo Bills keep on losing games, I still think Allen is the answer in Buffalo.
I do for sure. I can't wait to watch that as well. JC, thanks so much for coming on, talking football. It is great to see you, my man, the entertainer. All the preview, all the Jets stuff you're doing, all the around the league stuff, man. Thanks for joining the show.
Hey, man, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.